Outside the court, now ringed with a security fence, opponents of abortion rights cheered.
Complete and utter joy that it was finally overturned, but the determination, a steely determination, that the battle is not over.
Legal abortion on demand! Legal abortion on demand!
For others, it was what they were dreading ever since the court signaled in December it was likely to overturn Roe.
It feels like a betrayal. It feels like my country doesn't love me and appreciate my body as a woman.
The court overturned nearly 50 years of abortion precedents in a ruling that was a first. Never before has the court granted and then taken away a widely recognized constitutional right. The court voted 5-4 to overturn Roe. Chief Justice John Roberts said going that far wasn't necessary to uphold Mississippi's law banning abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court voted 6-3 to uphold that law. The majority opinion overturning Roe tracked closely with the version that leaked in May, touching off nationwide protest, including at the homes of some of the court's conservatives. Justice Samuel Alito's majority opinion said no right to abortion is protected by any constitutional provision. The Roe decision, he said, was egregiously wrong and deeply damaging.
Like Winston Churchill said, this is the end of the beginning. It's been a 50-year battle to protect unborn children. But we now have those battles in every state.
Unlike other court rulings based on a right to privacy, Alito said abortion is different because it involves a potential life. So he said the ruling does not undermine the rights to same-sex marriage or contraception, though Justice Clarence Thomas said the court should take another look at them, too. The ruling does not make abortion illegal, but it's no longer a constitutional right, so that leaves the issue up to each state. It's likely to become illegal soon in about half the nation. Some states have already banned it as of tonight. The rest of the banned states are likely to follow in the coming weeks. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, in a controlling concurrence, said states that ban abortion cannot make it a crime for their residents to travel to a state where abortion is legal to get the procedure. In a joint dissent, Justices Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan said the court ruling means that from the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. They say a state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and family cost.
People are going to be heading to the streets, both in the wake of this decision immediately and in the days and months to come, and making clear that the majority of people in the United States support abortion rights.
Outside the Mississippi clinic at the heart of today's Supreme Court decision,
we do abortion, and we're proud to do abortion.
Even though the days for that are now numbered, at the Jackson Women's Health Organization, the requests are only growing. In 10 days, because of the state's trigger law, Mississippi's only abortion clinic will shut down for good.
I will tell you that any patient who contacts us, we'll see them. We'll make sure we see them during that 10 days.
But in some states, change is already happening. Of the 13 trigger law states, abortion is now illegal, with a few exceptions in at least 5 of them following today's ruling, including Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, where, through tears, the Attorney General signed the certification late today.
Restoring to the state of Arkansas the authority to prohibit abortion.
In Wisconsin, Planned Parenthood immediately stopped abortions following today's ruling. The medical director had to break the news to patients already in the waiting room.
Today, I had to look people in the eye and turn them away when they were seeking abortions.
Across the country, emotional reaction on both sides.
My first reaction was rage.
This is an amazing victory.
And while some lawmakers celebrate the decision,
this is a profound change in the law in our country, and it will save millions of lives of unborn children.
Others?
My wife's in tears. My kids are incredibly distraught. My sister says, I thought the courts were there to protect our freedoms, not roll them back.
Back in Mississippi, today's ruling is a victory for Terry Herring.
My eyes just filled with tears. This is a day to rejoice.
She has spent nearly 30 years fighting to end abortion and says she's proud Mississippi played a role.
What does today mean for you? You know, personally, we didn't know if this would happen in our lifetime, right? We've been advocating for a long time. So seeing this happen in my lifetime and knowing that we had the opportunity to be a part of that is, it means us being a part of changing history.
But for Tyler Hardin, who runs Planned Parenthood in the state,
you've gotten dozens of calls since this decision came down. Are women scared?
Yes, and to be honest, I'm scared as well.
The closest clinic, she says, will be in Florida, a 7-hour drive.
That means that people will have to find funds to travel. People will have to find funds to get hotel rooms, buy food.
Is that a feasible option for them?
It's not.
A somber President Biden tonight declaring this a low moment for the nation's highest court.
It's a sad day for the court and for the country. Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
The White House, mindful of how personal this ruling is, inviting more than a dozen senior aides, all women, to witness the president calling the decision the result of an extreme ideology.
It was 3 justices named by one president, Donald Trump. Make no mistake, this decision is a culmination of a deliberate effort over decades to upset the balance of our law.
Top Republicans touting the ruling as a hard-won victory.
The right to life has been vindicated. The voiceless will finally have a voice.
It will save countless innocent children.
2 prominent senators now suggest they were misled by assurances made during recent confirmation hearings.
Roe v. Wade's an important precedent of the Supreme Court.
A good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court.
Republican Susan Collins slamming today's decision as inconsistent with those justices' testimony. So what comes next? With his authority limited tonight, President Biden's calling on Congress to guarantee the right to an abortion. But Senate Democrats currently do not have the votes for that. The president vowing his administration will protect women's access to FDA-approved medications like abortion pills and contraception, and promising to defend a woman's ability to travel to other states where abortion remains legal. 63% of Americans do not believe Roe should be overturned. Democrats, including the nation's first woman vice president, hoping to redirect that outrage to this fall's midterm elections.
You have the final word. So this is not over.
This fall, Roe is on the ballot.
A defining cultural clash in a country now even more deeply divided.
With the stroke of a pen, the Supreme Court has likely triggered a massive abortion migration in this country. More than 300,000 abortions were performed last year in the 26 states where the procedure could soon be illegal or highly restricted. Now those people may choose to cross state lines. In Tennessee, the Attorney General wants the state's 6-week ban to start right now.
The people of Tennessee, for the first time in 50 years, will have a chance to weigh in on this issue.
So this is where we do our abortion procedures back here.
These are your abortion procedure rooms. You have 2 rooms.
Yep.
We recently visited the Choices Healthcare Clinic in Memphis. Soon the doors to these rooms will be closed for good.
Our patients are predominantly black. The majority of them are uninsured or underinsured.
They have been bracing for this court decision for months.
We just kind of all thought this is going to be really bad for us. And so I said to my executive team, there's this place called Carbondale.
Carbondale is in southern Illinois, 3 hours by car from Memphis. It's where they plan to open a new clinic in August, but were reluctant to show us pictures because of security concerns. Clinician Nakia Grayson will be driving back and forth.
Will it be big enough to handle what is really going to be potentially a flood of patients, right?
Now, that's a good question. I don't know. I think that we will be the only clinic right now in the southern part of Illinois. We will handle as many patients as we can.
In some states where abortion will still be legal, access is being expanded. Connecticut passed a law allowing non-physicians to provide abortions. But anti-abortion activists hope increasing support systems during pregnancy will change people's minds.
I don't know of anybody that is, or any state that is thinking that they can stop people from traveling to another state. We are going to have to just push even harder than we have been to encourage women to let their baby live and to seek out the resources that are available.
But for many of those who choose not to, getting an abortion just got a whole lot harder. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Memphis, Tennessee.
I believe that there comes a time in the life of every society where they have to take a step back and look at themselves and realize, for better or for worse, the level and gravity of their own hypocrisy. Now, in many cases, as we know, when this has happened throughout history, other societies have decided to look past or reject or ignore the reality of their own hypocrisy and contradiction and continue along the lines of doing what they were doing. I think this is most evident in the history of the modern history of the Germanic tribes, better known as Germany, before and after the First and Second World Wars. How different the world would be even today had they realized and accepted their own hypocrisy even before the First World War, much less the Second. And now, when you look at American society, even beyond this conversation about abortion, whether or not it should be legal, you really see the slow but steady deterioration and breakdown of civilization in this country, because for so long what we call American society has refused to look at its own hypocrisy. Okay? Everybody wants to talk about, the gun violence, like what happened in Uvalde, or these mass shootings that happen in these ghetto hellholes from everywhere from Chicago to Houston, from LA to New York. But nobody is, not enough people are accepting the reality that the United States and the problems that it is having internally, to the point where the Justice Department and National Security Agency is even admitting that the biggest threat is no longer an attack by foreign agents outside of the United States like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, but an attack from the inside by so-called lone wolf type terrorists or domestic terrorist organizations like Timothy McVeigh, for example. The reason why these things are happening, and that doesn't even, when you talk about terrorism, that doesn't even account for the neighborhood terrorists that we as black people and a lot of Hispanic communities get to unfortunately experience on a day-to-day basis with the Pookie and Ray Ray types, as I had mentioned previously. Nobody wants to sit back. Nobody wants to stand up and really call it for what it is. The abandonment of moral compass I believe Ronald Reagan had mentioned this during his presidency. The abandonment of moral compass, meaning the willing lack of obligating ourselves to regulate ourselves, ourselves morally, to the point where we are establishing a clear division between right and wrong, is what has led and is leading to a lot of the madness that we are seeing today, where a kid can run into a school and slaughter 20-something children. And I use that, I keep going back to using that example because when you look at Uvalde or Sandy Hook and you look at the question of abortion, when you really think about it, both of these go hand in hand. They go hand in fucking hand. When supporting my theory that American society for so long has refused to look at its own hypocrisy. I said the same thing about the issue of pedophilia over the course of the last 4 years. How long can you go with having a society that passes laws against child sexual abuse, yet you're raising your daughters from an early age through media to basically grow up to be little whores? I mean, how long can this go on? Okay? Now, everybody in the media and, a lot of these people in government want to act so shocked and so stunned when one of these lunatics goes and shoots up a school and murders children. Yet somehow we are the same society. Well, I hate putting myself in this, so I'm going to say this is the same society that turns a blind eye to the legalized murder of unborn babies in the womb. Now, this is a issue, and this is a moment where I wish I had, and it sounds stupid because I'm just waking up. Oh boy. This is a moment where I wish that I had the FS Avenger site still up and running. Because if I had it up and running, I would show y'all what an abortion really looks like. Because I don't think a lot of people, it's just like I heard some conservative commentator yesterday. They were mentioning how, they were comparing abortions to, the slaughterhouse, where a lot of people don't understand what is done to animals that we use for our food source, in order for you to go to the store and be able to buy like ground chuck, ground beef, beef and pork, hot dogs. A lot of people do not understand, nor do they care, the processes through which certain companies like Eckrich, among ones off the top of my head, go through to not only kill these animals, but slaughter these animals and grind up their flesh in order for us to have meat food source. Okay? Fish products, like seafood products, they have it a little easier because, for whatever reason, they don't typically just outright slaughter those animals before they and put them on the chopping block before they tag them and bag them, and then deliver them to a place where the store puts them in a display case. But if most people saw what happens to a human baby fetus, they would probably have a lot different attitude about it. Now, I don't have any kids, and I've listed my reasons as to why I don't want to have any kids. Okay? But I hear all of these bitches, all these butthurt females, white and black, throwing a bitch fit, as they typically do. Okay? Saying their body, their choice. And, I really, this is why I isolate myself from people in my private and personal life now. I don't, especially members of the opposite sex. I don't care how attractive the hoe is. Yeah, I'm like David Kill. Yeah, I'm still gonna look. I don't want these crazy bitches around me at all. I don't. Okay? Because they're fucked up. Okay? I just don't understand the logical reasoning behind saying your body, your choice. Yet, you make the decisions to fuck, to have unprotected sex with a guy that ain't worth a shit, or you're just having sex for fun. A lot of people just have sex for fun and don't accept the fact that even though, sex feels good, sex is there not to prove your love to your partner. Sex is not there, for recreation. By nature's design, sex is there to produce babies. It's designed to feel good, just like food is designed to taste good, to ensure the continuation of the species. Because if sex didn't feel good, how many people would fuck? Okay? Now, it is what it is. But you know what sex is for. If you're going to have sex, okay, for fun, and you don't want to get pregnant, there are so many other options besides going to a clinic, having someone stick what equates to a fucking ice cream scoop with a damn knife and a hammer on the end of it inside your puss and fucking tear up a life on your insides. I mean, this is literally what happens. For years, I thought that an abortion was they go in and they give you like a lethal injection type of thing. Like when they put a inmate on death row on the table. I thought that they, just put you on something and they inject you with something and give you some pills and the baby just, the fetus just kind of slowly dies on the inside of the woman and kind of just shrinks into nothing, right? And then maybe you pee or crap it out. That's what I thought. I did not know these motherfuckers actually go physically inside of the female and they murder this fetus. They rip it apart, just like, if you were ever in high school and they made you do the frog dissection or some type of animal dissection, they do that only a lot more violently. They just tear the baby apart. And they say, oh, it's okay, it wasn't born. Okay. So if that's the game that that society is going to play, to the point where millions upon millions. I forget how many it is, but there have been tens of millions of babies just in the United States alone. Hundreds of millions of babies, probably over 1 billion throughout the world over the course of the last 50-something years that have been done like this. Okay? I had a person that is related to me that had one of these procedures done back in the 70s. If that's the game that society is going to play, then what is the point of having laws that protect children? See, and y'all heard me say this before as well. What I've come to learn about human beings, which is why I don't deal with them in my personal and private life anymore, is that most people are full of shit. Most people want what people want, because human beings are visual creatures. Okay? People want to look at themselves, and they want to look at the environment around them and say, oh, we're doing good. Oh, we're the best. Right? We're civilized. We're proud Americans. You know, we're so sophisticated, yet, you know, we have all of these rules and regulations that set us aside from everyone else in the world. People want to feel like they're somehow special, especially in this society, especially the so-called American. Yet, when you really look at the barbarity of not only abortion, but a lot of the hypocrisies in this country, okay, and in this society, a lot of the marketing of sexual promiscuity, okay, people in this country are from road rage to Roe versus Wade, Americans are really no less barbaric than anybody else in this world, including the Taliban. Okay? They're really no less barbaric. They really aren't. You think just because ISIS... Y'all remember when ISIS used to make all them stupid ass videos of them murdering people and shit and putting it online? What makes what ISIS did, putting that shit on video, any different from what is done in abortion clinics to little unborn babies? What makes that shit any different? Oh, because there's not a camera and that's running, and it's not live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, when the so-called doctor, and some states now are even passing laws where people who aren't doctors can perform these fucking procedures. Can stick a damn, equates to a damn ice cream scoop with a weapon on the end of it inside some woman's vagina and rip a baby into shreds before pulling it out like grinding cow beef. Oh, that makes it different? Is that what it is? Is that the game we're running? So see, if we want to play it's my body, my choice, you know, men fuck for fun, women fuck for fun, but the woman gets stuck with the baby, then probably you should use more discretion when choosing to fuck, when choosing who to fuck, and choosing how to fuck, right? Maybe you should make him wrap it up. Maybe you should take birth control, right? Maybe you should use any of a myriad of different options, okay, prior to spreading your legs and letting a man insert his phallus inside of you and release his sperm into you, since we know what happens if you do that. I mean, hell, you know, people can say what they want about the porn industry. I have, but damn, at least they make the bitches swallow it. They do something with it. Instead of, in most cases, letting it... Well, anyway, this is YouTube. Okay, I'm forgetting. I'm not on FS Avenger. But the point of the matter is, okay, sex is for conception. This is not just true with the human population. This is true with every species on planet fucking Earth. Okay? You're gonna have sex. You can have it for recreation, but you understand, without using the myriad of different protections that they have for both men and women, there is a high probability, there is a risk that you are going to get pregnant. Once you are impregnated, short of having a miscarriage or something, okay? Yes, you should be obligated to have that child, because we are no longer talking about just your body. There is a body growing inside of you. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies. Do I agree with what most of y'all call God and the Creator, entrusting a female, a woman, to have children and obligating her to take that responsibility? Crazy as a lot of y'all are, absolutely fucking not. I personally believe that there should have been another way to reproduce human and other types of offspring. But this is what y'all loving God decided was a good idea. So he created the inside of y'all to develop and birth life. That is the way it is. Okay? Y'all should not be able to allow, directly or indirectly, the violent termination of that life any more than anybody should be allowed, just because they're poor and don't have money, to go in and rob a bank. Okay? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Now, one of the things, and y'all know that I mentioned this in a community post not too long ago. One of the things that I'm hearing these libtards and these feminists talking about is how women of color, aka black women, because Hispanic women, they have their babies, and in spite of how ghetto a lot of Hispanics are, they still have, even like in the hoods of South Los Angeles, they still have a very strong family-oriented community, society, and culture. Whereas liberals, and y'all have to excuse me, it's raining now. Whereas liberals have lied to black women and black females so much over the course of the last 50 years since the Moynihan Report, that they actually think it's normal to try to raise a child on their own. The reality is, this crisis of, the niggerdom that we see in these, incubation centers of violent crime, poverty, and underdevelopment, to the point where, you have so many of these little runts misraised by these heifers running around terrorizing the community, shooting up clubs and parties. This would not exist. The massive need or the massive false perceived need by the black American female to need access to abortion, even contraception, would not be there had it not been for the manipulation, or as I used to call, the coonipulation of black people as a whole following slavery and Jim Crow. Okay? You hear these females, they're so fucked up. You hear them on Facebook. You hear them, you see them on Instagram. A majority of these young black females are nothing but prostitutes. They literally, that is how they advertise themselves, both in wording and in photographs. They literally have no problem talking and bragging about their loose sex lives, their failed relationships with these degenerate savages. They have no problem talking and bragging about living a degenerate life and the life of a whore. They have no problem with this. Okay? And so what has happened is, you're talking about from twerking to just indiscriminate fucking, right? What has happened is black society has normalized the whoredom, the prostitution of its daughters, to the point where these young girls think it's normal to wear another woman's hair in their head. They think it's normal to do this ghetto mating ritual called twerking. They think it's normal to have 20 different sex partners by the time they graduate from high school. They think it's normal to raise a child on their own, with Uncle Sam's welfare being their daddy, and no viable father in the home whatsoever. And if they decide they don't want to have the child, they think it's normal to run to an abortion clinic after mama or sugar daddy give them some money, and again, spread their legs on an operating table and have some fraud that dares to call themselves a medical professional stick a tool up their vagina and, rip a unborn baby to shreds. Yet this crisis would not be here, where you have so many of these hoes running around acting like hoes, getting impregnated with babies that they don't want. I remember Tommy Sotomayor so many years ago. He made a video about some little stupid ass, I think they were Memphis Thoughts. They made some stupid ass ghetto song about what they would do for the dick. You don't see any other race group now, again, there are whores across the board in every race. That's universal. From Thailand to Texas. But it is predominantly transparent and apparent in black society. Once again, because we have a society that has basically coddled and manipulated black people following, well, really it happened during the height of the civil rights movement, okay, where all white people in the North, including the federal government, did was they took black people from the situation that they were in under, discriminatory Jim Crow, and they just manipulated them into believing that they were free when they were nothing more than a different version of slaves that were made to be reliant on all of these liberal policies like welfare that we can clearly see have devastated the so-called black community. As I said, you've heard me say in the past, what people call a community is not a community anymore in black America. It's just a space where a bunch of niggas live together. Just like the black American female, most of them don't know anything about motherhood. They don't know anything about family. Black America doesn't know anything about community as a whole. Yeah, sure, there are, a few Cosby types, or Family Matters types here and there sprinkled throughout, okay? But y'all also remember years ago I described the current situation in Black America, where you have free thinkers like myself, where we have become a minority within a minority. Okay? Those of us who think outside the box, those of us who don't celebrate white people holidays, including Christmas, those of us who don't, abide by the traditions and the customs of this hypocritical society that has done nothing but put black people in an even worse situation than they were in during slavery and Jim Crow. We are a minority within a minority because we choose to think for ourselves. We do not allow. I remember I asked this one hood rat that I worked with before, I started becoming a private contractor doing my own thing. I remember asking this one hood rat, well, why? And she had 2 bastard children, of course, 2 illegitimate children. I'm sorry, this is YouTube. I asked her, well, why do you have an Apple phone? And she said, because everybody has an Apple phone. I'm like, that's not true. There are people who have Androids. And she said, but yeah, Apple's the most popular. What did the dumb bitch say? She said, something to the tune of, you're not bouted or you're not down. You ain't got swag unless you got an Apple phone. So see, these little retarded bitches, they just do things because they see other people doing it, right? So they go and have an abortion when they decide they don't want to deal with the consequences of their actions because they see other little hoes doing it. They have children that they can't afford and don't know how to raise because they see other people doing it. They twerk because they see other people doing it. You see what happens when you allow society, the powers that be, when you allow anything and everything to impact your mind. It's the same thing with this COVID thing, okay? I still have people, family members to this day, that swear up and down that those vaccinations are for my betterment. Yet these same people have been vaccinated and boosted multiple times, and yet they're still scared of catching COVID. And I just ask people a simple question. I say, yes, I know I'm not a medical expert, but I need you to make sense of something for me. Why is it when we were kids, we got polio shots? Why is it when we were kids, we got tetanus shots? I think they have a TB shot. Why is it when you get these vaccinations of drugs that have been proven over the years to work against these diseases, you don't get polio? But when you get a COVID vaccine, like Oscar de la Hoya, you can still not only catch COVID-19, but you can even be hospitalized, or like Colin Powell, you can even die from complications of COVID-19. You realize, okay, yeah, people say Colin Powell was old, okay. But the man was fully vaccinated, according to them. He still caught COVID-19 and it killed him. That does not make sense. But why do people, and mind you, COVID-19 is not even in the top 10 of deadliest germs in the world. Okay? I just sent a family member of mine a link of the world's most deadliest germs. There are hundreds of thousands of little microorganisms that will fuck you up sideways. Okay? But everybody wants to make it about COVID-19. Why? Because like when Justin Bieber was famous, okay, that's the hot thing to say. COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19. So everything's about a germ that incidentally only kills about not even 1% of the people that it sickens. And it's the same thing with these brain dead hoes. They want to do what the hot thing is, okay? And the hot thing, let's face it, is not to respect yourself as a young lady. It's not to carry yourself in a respectable way and to go to school and study, pass your tests, do your homework, so you can grow up and become a doctor or a lawyer, or according to, at least white standards, some respectable contributor to society. The hot thing to do if you're a young female, especially a young black female, is be a little loudmouth, illegitimate baby dispensing, disrespectful as possible, club thotting, hair and nails did, Madison Street hooker dressed up hoe. That's the hot thing. That's the popular thing to do now. I mean, y'all, come on, man. Y'all see these people. Y'all see these people online. You see them offline. Just be as dumb of a hoe as you possibly can be. That is what society teaches these females. Okay? And then you wonder why black society is the way it is. Y'all have also heard me say in the community post that I put up last night that I hinted at the fact that I honestly do not believe that abortion would have ever been made a constitutional right. Okay? Had the majority of babies being aborted been white Aryan. Okay? And not from minority groups like, primarily black women. Yes, white women have abortions as well. But if we're being realistic about this, it's just like every other bad statistic in our society. How, black men don't make up nothing but like 7% of the population, but they make up 70% of the jails. That was all by design. Okay? The powers that be made sure that black America was off kilter and fucked up, that the family structure was broken, so that when these babies that aren't aborted come of age, they're just fucked up little motherfuckers that are going around, breaking laws and robbing shit. And so then the state, local, and sometimes federal authorities can come lock their black ass up. Okay? Just like the slave plantation. There's no difference. Essentially, it's just a different side of the same coin. Black women make up what? 8% of the population? But they make up almost half of those who are aborting children. So you can't really compare 60% of the population and saying, well, they're a majority of the ones that are having abortions, when out of that 60%, maybe only like 3 or 4% are aborting their seed. Yet you have 8% of the population that are, at least 3 or 4% of that 8% are aborting their seed. You can't really make a comparison there. There is no comparison. And all of that was done by design. As I said in the community post, do you think that the justices back during that time, just, after the civil rights movement and on the back end of COINTELPRO, the FBI and Justice Department's program to break up, primarily black student organizations that they saw as extremist or communist, do you really think that those justices that were on that Supreme Court were not aware of the fact that if they didn't know, okay, somebody didn't put papers in front of them and show them, well, a majority of the people that are killing babies inside the womb are black bitches. You think they didn't know that before they cast a vote to make that a constitutional right? Come on, man. Justice, that's, I don't put a lot of stock in, the white power structure and all these government officials, but that's one thing that Justice Alito had right. Okay? That Roe versus Wade was a injustice not only to American society, but it was an injustice to the human race from the very beginning. These people, these white people who write history, they never want us to forget what happened to the Jews in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany. Okay? They never want us to forget about forget the other 90 million people that died during World War II. They never want us to forget the barbarity that happened in those concentration camps. And yeah, I will admit, it was a bit monstrous. Yet, what Hitler and the Nazis did in those concentration camps, that slaughtered millions of people, is only a small percentage in comparison to what is done in these fucking abortion clinics every single day. I think I had calculated not too long ago, I think I had calculated how many hundreds of babies are slaughtered in the womb every day in this country since 1973. And when you really look at it, okay, even black people, who, we like to talk about how, we're discriminated against and all of that. Or, Jews like to talk about anti-Semitism or, this recent thing about Asian hate crimes. Nobody in this world has been discriminated against and targeted. Nobody is more hated. Let me say this. Nobody in this world is more hated and more targeted and more murdered than little unborn human babies. Nobody. Okay? I get people in my immediate family so uncomfortable when I say this, and I love it. I fucking love it. But do you know what the leading cause of death in this country, not only in this country, but in this world is, and has been for a century? No, it's not COVID-19, motherfucker. It's not AIDS. It's not even heart disease. That's the one thing that knocked me out of the park, that shell-shocked me. I couldn't believe it. When I looked at the statistics of how many babies have been killed in the womb over the decades, and I compared that to the leading cause of death for born humans, which is heart-related ailments, mainly cardiovascular disease, which, trumps every other type of cause of death. When I looked, I couldn't believe it. The leading cause of death is abortion. The leading cause of death of human beings is abortion. Nothing, not any war fought, not any germ, not any drug, not any bullet. Nothing has killed more human beings than the procedure of ripping, often violently ripping. I mean, I would still be against it, but I could see if they did a surgical procedure like a C-section where they opened the woman up or they stuck something in there and carefully. You know how that's another hypocrisy. They talk, inmates that are on death row, they talk about, how they, there's a certain procedures to make sure that they're not doing cruel and unusual punishment. I think that even went to the Supreme Court. Whether or not inmates are guaranteed not to have pain when they're executed. I mean, damn. This society has more respect for death row inmates or prisoners that are on death row than it does for these little unborn babies. They will put a inmate on a table, peacefully render them to sleep with one drug, and then inject them with another drug that just simply stops their heart. In most cases, no pain. It's just like going to sleep permanently. Yet, they will take a metal tool, a surgically sharp metal tool, and go inside of a woman and just rip this baby to shreds. Like, people say, oh, it don't feel anything. It's not born yet. Motherfucker, how do you know? Just because it can't cry or scream? God. Oh. Again, this is why I say people can say what they want to say about me. But I ain't never hurt a fucking fly. I ain't never had an abortion. I ain't never done nothing to physically harm nobody. But this same society, just like that dumb woman's fear bitch, sitting up a couple of months ago talking about how dangerous I am, you dumb bitch. Yet you're the one who shot another black woman? This same society fixes its mouth, has an attitude against those of us who refuse to comply with the status quo. Those of us who refuse to go along with what people consider regular society. Those of us who refuse to grovel before the stinky feet of these whores. Like they're something special, like they're God's gift when they're actually God's curse to mankind. Yet, this is the same society that will act like we're the devil, but will allow some barbaric shit like this. Like cutting a little innocent baby to shreds inside of a woman's womb. How do you think I am supposed to respect your opinion or your perspective of me, much less give a fuck what you think about what I think, when you think shit like this is okay? Huh? How? Make that make sense to me, because I don't get it. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't get it. But this is where we're at. And like I said, Justice Alito was absolutely correct. Making that a constitutional right was unjust from the fucking beginning. They're sitting up here talking about, oh, we need to start showing the autopsy photos of what happens to little babies when they're hit with intermediate rounds from 223s fired from assault rifles like AR-15. Okay, motherfucker. Well, if you're going to show autopsy photos of that, why don't you show videos of what happens to unborn babies, aka fetuses, after they've been ripped to shreds and put in a little cup once they are violently slaughtered and extracted from a woman's womb? Why don't you show that? Because I guarantee you, as horrific, obviously, as high-powered assault rifle rounds are to human flesh, whether you're a child or an adult, that still is not going to be any more graphic than seeing what happens to a little baby. Seeing the skin and bone bodies of all those dead people in the concentration camps is not going to be any more graphic than seeing what happens to a little innocent baby after it's violently extracted from a woman's womb. Okay? Let's call it for what it is. Just like with pedophilia, as I told y'all, society sweeps a lot of things under the rug. A lot of the ugliness under the rug that it doesn't want to deal with. It accepts a certain level of hypocrisy. It accepts a certain level of barbarity. But to make itself feel better, this society will write laws and regulations and get on these talk shows and on social media acting so high and mighty. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, shame on you. Oh, you're a monster because you hurt kids. But this is the same society that will allow kids, babies, to be violently slaughtered and use the excuse, oh, it's not born. Did you notice some states even allow what's called late stage abortion? Meaning a woman can be 7, 8, possibly even 9 months when the baby is killed inside the womb. In some states, a baby can be, if it's being, if it's coming out through a woman's vagina, if it's not all the way out, I mean, it's practically a baby at this point. If only the head is out, or if it comes out the other way where only the feet are out, the doctors can still, upon the request of the woman, they can still kill the baby by injecting it with poison before it comes all the way out. It's only murder once the baby comes all the way out. They had this dude, Kermit Gosnell. Ironically, the only abortion doctor ever sent to prison for murder was black, of course. In Philadelphia, I believe. I think Antoine, you probably heard about this. He had black bitches coming to him. He had them coming to him in late stage pregnancy. In some cases, the baby was already out of the womb, or she would have the baby. He would allow them to have the baby, and then he'd kill the fucking baby and store it in a bin. And the thing that I said about Kermit Gosnell, y'all know on BitChute, I made a video about that some years ago. I said the thing about Kermit Gosnell and how the prosecutor was trying to act like he was such a fucking monster. You think this doesn't happen at white-controlled abortion clinics? Or hasn't at some point? Because there are no cameras? You think those white nurses and so-called doctors, you think they haven't done little grimy-ass things? Like, allowing a baby to be birthed? Or, performing a abortion on a woman that's in late-stage pregnancy when nobody was looking? You think the government at the state, local, and federal level even care? Just so long as it's black babies, the majority, that are being killed off like this? Once again, I told y'all this years ago. Society sweeps a lot of things underneath the rug and turns a blind eye to a lot of things, including a lot of things that are barbaric and a lot of things that are animalistic. Okay? Because it wants to feel special about itself by saying, well, we're not going to look at this. We're going to ignore this and act like it never happened. But we're going to turn around and write these laws, rules, and regulations that completely contradict what we're turning a blind eye to. Simply so we can feel like we're civilized and like being American and waving that stupid fucking flag means something. This is what they do. Nothing but sheer fucking hypocrisy. Some of those same white soldiers from the United States that liberated those Nazi concentration camps witnessed and oftentimes participated in the lynchings of black men back home. Or later on became police officers and members of the Ku Klux Klan that were sicking dogs on and spraying water hoses on black people during those civil rights demonstrations in the Deep South. For that matter, some of the same white Russian soldiers that, invaded Berlin and defeated the Nazi regime and took over the Reich Chancellery and raised the flag of the Soviet Union were some of the same white Russian soldiers that were violently raping German women during their invasion of Germany on their way Tuberland. Human beings are full of shit. That's the bottom line. And once again, this is why I don't put a lot of stock in relationships. I certainly don't think very highly of the opposite sex. But then, in all fairness, I got to be realistic. I don't really think too highly of the same sex either. A lot of you niggas, y'all disgust me. And if I have to be honest, I gotta, to be honest with you, yeah, this whole abortion thing is nothing but hypocrisy. But really, when I look at men, men are really fucking pathetic too. Men disgust me. Really, men have caused me more problems, including black men, especially over the course of the last 2 years, including, what happened a couple of months ago. Black men have really caused me more problems, and have caused more problems for themselves and for other black men as a whole than anybody. Okay? Who murdered y'all beloved Malcolm X? People say, oh, the CIA set it up. Okay, but who pulled the trigger? Who was Free Ray Rick Ross selling poison to? Right? Really, people across the board are full of shit. Okay? But I guess it's good to know that every once in a while, if you live long enough, you will see a society or part of a society come to grips with itself and actually have the boldness, have the balls to look in the mirror and realize we are full of shit. And we need to do something to correct our full of shitness. And like it or not, that is what the U.S. Supreme Court did. Okay? Now, as far as same-sex marriage, rights to contraception, I do support that because I don't know if those should be constitutional rights, but I really don't see two gay people marrying each other as harming the human race or harming other human beings. Contraception, if you stop the pregnancy before it even starts, that's not killing a human because the human is not developing in the first place. But, people will go back and forth with that all day long. But as far as murdering a developing human being as it is developing, as it is birthing, that is wrong. And it has been wrong since, according to y'all's Bible, the days of Adam and Eve. Okay? No matter how you cut it, by human standards, it's murder and it's barbarity. Okay? And I'm at least glad that this society could take a step back and look at itself and realize we are full of shit on this topic, and we've been full of shit on this topic for a long fucking time. Okay? Your body, your choice. Well, like I said, my body, my choice. If I go out there and I do something stupid, and I told several people this, online and off, once you cross a certain line, you have to deal with the consequences. You commit a violent crime, you got to deal with the consequences. You have unprotected sex and get pregnant, you have to deal with the consequences. You can't go before the judge and say, oh, well, I robbed the bank, or, oh, I shot, so-and-so, but, it was my body, my trigger finger, my choice. You can't convict me for no, you can't do that. Okay? You have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Period. And it's no different with this issue of abortion. It's no different. There was a song or a skit many years ago, I think from the 80s, that went something like, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Yeah. Well, ladies, the same logic applies here. Don't spread your legs for an unprotected penis if you don't want to give birth to new life. It's that simple. Thanks so much for listening, and talk to you later, guys.